There we go. So the recording technology works great if I remember to click record. It doesn't work if I don't click record. So I feel very strongly about the fact that my job as your professor is A, to teach you certain skill sets about small business management, which goes into all the other things that you're learning, which will eventually be a degree from this institution. And I want you all to get jobs. You know, like if this class is not related to what you want to do with your career afterwards, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job right. So that's why I asked you guys about your career plans, because I want to make sure that this class is linking in to what each of you want to do professionally. So the questions are pretty simple. I just want to know, what are you doing today for your job, and what do you want to be doing after you graduate? So any of you who haven't filled out the professional development plan yet, or if you filled it out and you want to change your answers, I just want to know, what are you doing now and what do you want to do after you graduate? And then finally, in addition to that, I want to know how much money you make now and how much money you want to make after you graduate. Not because I need to know how much money you make, but I wish somebody had told me how much things cost when I was your age. I didn't realize my dreams were going to be nearly so expensive. So I want to make sure that you're planning realistically for what it's going to take to reach your dreams. That's a segue into baseline, mid-range, and long-term goals. So the baseline is what you're doing now and how much money you're making now. The mid-range is what you want to do after you graduate and how much money you're going to be making doing that. And the long range is, if you could be king or queen for a day, what would you want to be? I want to know your dream in life, and also your dream for your finances in life. So do you want to be a millionaire? Do you want to own a jet? Do you want to own a Lamborghini? You want to take care of your parents when they're old? You want to buy a house? Like, all of these things cost money. And it's best if you start planning now for realistically how much they're going to cost. And if your revenue coming in from your salary and your job and whatever business you have on the side is not enough to reach your dreams, then you shouldn't be surprised when you don't reach your dreams in life. I want you guys to be aware of how much they cost now, so that you can not be disappointed later and you can actually achieve them. So, hang on one second. The rule of 10. I'm very superstitious about the number 10. I've been a salesman for years. Before I was a professor, I was a salesman. It doesn't matter whether I was starting my own business or working in Robert Half or working at Sony. Most of my career, I've either sold things or done business development. So when you want things to go right in life, you need multiple options. So if you want to get a job in the agriculture business, you need to have 10 applications out there. If you have one application out there or two, you may not actually get the job to work out for you. If you've got 10 applications out there, something is going to work out. Same thing for those of you who want to pursue certain dreams in life for what you want to do long term. If you are working in accounting right now, but really you'd like to get into real estate development in the future, then you need to start looking through LinkedIn, contacts that I know, contacts that other people know, and start talking to people who are in real estate development and start understanding what it takes to get into that field. And again, if you want to find one good contact who's really going to give you good advice, you need to have 10 that you're chasing. If there's 10 different contacts that you might be able to talk to, one of them is going to have the time and the interest to help you. If you only have one or two contacts you're looking at, they might not be enough. So I'm very superstitious about doing 10 of whatever it is that you want to succeed at. So baseline, we talked about, that's what you're doing today. Some of the goals that I had for your mid-range, so depending on what it is that you want to do after you graduate, I wanted to brainstorm next steps about how to get there, make sure that you're doing the right things to get the job that you want to get, setting realistic income goals based on your budget, and making sure that you're doing the right job searching and networking. So the reason I ask these questions is so that I can help you with those things. And then finally, long-term goals. How many people in here don't know what you want to be when you grow up? So What Color Is Your Parachute is a great book that you should take a look at. I told this in the last class. What Color Is Your Parachute is a book. You can get it on Amazon for $5 or $10. It has all these exercises that you fill out. It asks you, how do you like to consume information? What kind of homework do you like to do best? What kind of work do you like to do the worst? What kind of, yes?
There's different editions on Amazon. Do you think it matters?
No. They're all, I mean, each year they change a teeny little bit about it, but it's pretty much the same thing each year. They ask you things like, what do you like to do socially? What do you like to do on the weekend? And after you answer all these questions, the book will tell you some careers that you might be satisfied doing. When I filled this thing out as a senior in college, it told me that I was supposed to be a university professor. I didn't listen. This is my favorite job I've ever had. I love being a professor. This is a great gig. If I had just listened to that book, I could have been doing it 20 years earlier. So if you don't quite know what you want to be, or you think you know what you want to be, but you just want to confirm that it's going in the right direction, great book. $5 or $10 on Amazon, really help you to identify what career you're going to be happy in. I want to make sure that you plan the income that you need. We're going to talk a little bit later in this lecture about buying a house or taking care of your parents when they're old, being a millionaire. Like, all of these things are achievable. You just have to plan on the how you're going to bring in the money.
When you were doing that, do you just include your own income or your spouse's as well?
Either way. As long as you're clear about what it is, if it's a household income or an individual income, I usually just ballpark. And if you don't have income and expenses of at least like $1,500, $2,000 as an individual person, then I wonder whether you actually have all the expenses that you need to be planning for. And as a household, I double that number. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I want to make sure that you're planning the dollars correctly for reaching your dreams. And then finally, depending on what your dreams are, I would love to be able to refer you to contacts that can be advisors and mentors for you. That's what the template looks like. You've all gotten it on email. Brainstorming professional next steps. So there's a relatively finite number of things that you could do after you graduate. For those of you who haven't filled out the professional development plan yet, or if you filled it out and you want to change it and send it to me again, these are the options that I usually think about when I ask you, what do you want to do next? You could earn more money in your current job. Maybe you like your job already and you just want to move up. So either you're going to make more money and do the same job after you graduate, or you're going to get a new job but in the same company. So maybe you were doing admin support and you're going to take on a project management role after you graduate. those are two options. If you like your job already, you like the company you work for already, one option is to stay there. Hopefully moving up to a higher position and higher salary, but staying in the same place. Another option is finding a new job in the same industry. So maybe you really like the agriculture business, but you'd rather be working for Wonderful rather than a small family company. Or vice versa. Maybe you're working for Wonderful now, and you'd rather be working in a small business. That's another option, is to stay in the same industry, but just change jobs. Another option, great time to do it when you graduate from undergrad or when you graduate from an MBA or a PhD. The natural time to change careers. So you could go for a new job in a different industry. So maybe you're doing IT support right now, but you really like to get into the entertainment business. It's a great time to shift, and when you graduate, instead of working for an IT development company, you apply at Disney. So you can change industries if you want to. Grad school is always an option. Some of you want to go on and do your MBA or do a master's in something else, maybe even do a PhD. If that's your goal to do next, tell me, and we'll tailor your goals for the class so that they're oriented towards your applications for grad school rather than jobs. And then finally, internships, volunteer opportunities, and hobby projects. I really want to encourage you guys strongly to not turn your nose up at these opportunities, especially for getting into your dream job and your dream career. Internships and volunteer work are great ways to get your foot in the door with something. So, as a cautionary tale from my own past, the summer between my first and second years of my MBA, I worked at a company called Artist Direct. And Artist Direct was basically an online store for buying t-shirts and posters and all kinds of different merchandise for some really big names in the music business. And it was a concert booking agency. They would book concerts for artists all around the world. And at that time, I just had to make money over the summer. Like, all of my friends were getting big salaries on Wall Street, and I was no way that I was going to work for free. So I ended up doing some internet assessment on how they could improve the traffic numbers of the website. But if I had just been willing to work for free and get coffee for the agents were booking concerts with some of the biggest names in the business: the Beastie Boys, the Rolling Stones, Soul Coughing, Rob Zombie, Sublime, just big names. System of a Down. If I had just been willing to work for free, I could have met all these artists. I could have met their managers, met their agents, and I might be a power broker in Hollywood now instead of be a professor. Now, the book said I should be a professor, so probably it's good that I am, because I enjoy that more than being a power broker. But if I had just been willing to work for free, I would have made amazing contacts in the music business. And I wasn't willing to do it. I kick myself all the time that I didn't just get coffee for a summer. I would have made great contacts. It would have been fun too. So depending on what you want to go into for your life, and what your dream is, don't turn your nose up at doing something for free, especially part-time. I mean, you gotta make money to pay your bills, but a project on the weekends or a part-time internship is a great way to get your foot in the door for an industry that's hard to get into. So don't underestimate that. Setting realistic budget-based income goals. I want to make sure that all of you in your planning for your expenses after you graduate have all of these things planned into your expenses. So first of all, taxes and withholding. Like, don't forget that your salary, you earn net, not gross salary. So if you have a $50,000 a year salary, you're probably only taking home $35,000. So remember, when you're planning for all your expenses and you're getting excited about a new job you're going to get, remember that you're going to take about 15 to 20% off the top, maybe more, for taxes and withholding. So don't be disappointed when you planned your budget based on $50,000 and then you find out you only got $35,000. If you can, it's best to save about 20% of your income. This is for retirement, for investments when you're older. Just put 20% aside. No matter, it's just going to sit there and collect interest on stocks and bonds. Put 20% away, you'll be glad you did. In addition to that, I also recommend having a rainy day fund. Like anybody in here, you could have health problems, you could just get laid off from your job. You never know when all of a sudden you're going to be 6 months without work. If you have some money, cash, set aside, not your long-term investments, not the stuff that's invested in stocks and bonds, but just cash in money market accounts that you can get to within a couple days. If you've got money set aside, then you don't have to make bad decisions when you go between work. If you have to get a job in order to be able to pay your bills right away, then you're probably not going to be getting the job you really wanted, and you're making bad decisions about your career and your finances. So, in addition to the 20% savings, I personally would recommend a year and a half worth of money. If you've got a year and a half worth of money, you could stop working today and you would own your own company by the time you had to earn money again. But at least 6 months or a couple months worth of rainy day fund to make sure that if you lose your job for health reasons or just because you got laid off, that you have enough time to adjust and find a new job. Healthcare, in addition to your health insurance, make sure that you plan for what your deductibles and copays are. Like, I got pretty great health insurance from Cal State, but sometimes things are expensive. So if I wanted to do a procedure that costs $40,000 and it's a 90% copay, that still means that I have to pay $4,000. So remember what your maximum copays and deductibles are, and make sure that you've got cash set aside for that, so that you're not surprised and you don't go broke when you need to go use your health care. Rent and utilities, that's pretty straightforward. Car payment. I put under telecom a whole bunch of things: phone, internet, TV, online subscriptions. There's all kinds of things in your digital world that you need to plan for in your regular budget. Food and entertainment, and then question mark. Depending on what your individual goals are in life, there's probably other items too. But this PowerPoint is up here. I wanted to challenge all of you to make sure that you're planning for all these costs in your budget for after you graduate. If you're not, you're probably going to be sad when life doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. RunnerLink. I am going to try and see if I can do. How many people in here are familiar with RunnerLink? Not too many. RunnerLink is our CSUB system for the Career Center and job hiring and stuff. It's got a lot of contacts for employers that recruit through our Career Center, and it's got lists of jobs that people are hiring for. So they just changed around all of the login procedures for RunnerLink. So I want to make sure, I'm not sure if I can get it to work or not, but I'm going to try. Yeah, unfortunately, the login has changed from how it was last year. Let me just point out to you guys that there is something called RunnerLink. There's a lot of useful job postings on there. Also, contact information for companies that recruit through our Career Center. So I encourage all of you to not assume that there's. I mean, our Career Center is not the most dynamic career center in the world, but we do have some companies that are hiring through our Career Center, and we do have hiring contacts through the Career Center. So don't underestimate what they have. In addition to that, for jobs, social media postings are great, especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn has thousands and thousands of job postings for companies all around the world. You just type in the name of the company, it'll pull up all of the jobs that are available at that company that you could apply to. Monster, specific networking targets, and prospecting for networking leads. I'm not going to go into those too much. What color is your parachute? That I talked about before. I also put a citation for it and a link to Amazon here. From current slide. I wanted to talk a little bit about planning for your big dreams financially. This is kind of expanding the question mark section in that budget before. So you can do almost anything that you want in life if you just plan and work for it. So it's really important to know how much things cost so that you can plan on how you're going to make that money. It may mean that you have to get a new job. It may mean that you have to start a side business. And not all of you are going to start a business and work full-time on your own business. A lot of you are going to work for another company. That doesn't mean that you can't start a side business and bring in extra income. But the money's not going to come from the sky or fall from a tree. You have to plan for how you're going to make this money, either through getting a job with a better salary or by doing other entrepreneurial business work on the side if you're going to reach your goals. So one goal that I had for myself that I made sure to realize when I went back and did my PhD and became a professor, I have a lot of friends all over the world and family. People in different parts of the United States, lots of friends in Brazil, lots of friends in Germany and other places in Europe. So no matter which continent I'm on, there's 2 other continents where there's people that I miss. And even in the United States, I got a lot of friends and family back in the Midwest that I like to go see and visit. So it was, I sat down and I thought about how much traveling do I want to do each year, and how much is it really going to cost? So about $3,000 for all of the expenses, including the flight for Brazil, about the same amount for Europe, and figure another $3,000 or $4,000 for various travel within the States. I counted up that I would need about $10,000 in travel budget, and that's about what I spend on travel these days. It's a little less than that. I've cut back a little bit, but if you count up what you're actually going to need, I also did the same thing for my entertainment budget and budgeted about $20,000 for that. I'm also below that number right now, but if you don't know what number you're shooting for, you can't plan on achieving it. So that's one example from my life, and some examples for you guys of things that are often a goal. Buying a house. So if you're going to buy a house, real estate prices in Bakersfield are pretty good. $200,000 maybe for a house here in Bakersfield. 20% down payment on that is $40,000. So if you saved $400 a month for 10 years, you've got $40,000. If you save $1,000 for 40 months, which is about a little less than 4 years, then you've got your down payment for the house as well. But you're going to need a down payment for the house, and the money's not going to come out of the sky. So plan for the budget that you need, and think about what you're going to do in your career to make the money to get there. Taking care of your parents when they're old, that's something that I'm dealing with right now. My dad's in a assisted living facility, and if you want a private room rather than your parents having to be roommates with somebody in their old age, if you want a private room for your parents in a assisted living facility, it's $3,000 a month. It's not cheap. So you can do the math on what you have to save. My dad's probably going to be in this facility for, he's pretty young, so 10, 20 years. That's a lot of $3,000. That's a lot of $3,000 a month. So important to realize that that's how much it's going to cost to take care of your parents. Now, some of that's taken care of by his Social Security money that comes in, but still, you got to plan on, as a team, where is the money going to come from to take care of your parents when they're old. I highly recommend long-term care insurance too. It's it seems like not a big deal right now, but when you get older and when you actually have kind of debilitating health problems, the options available for you, if you really can't walk or can't get around in a wheelchair or whatever, they suck. Like, it's really not fun to be bedridden in our society. And if you got long-term care insurance, then it ensures that you've got a private room. It ensures that you got good quality care of people taking care of you. It's a lot better than the bargain basement that a lot of people get. So that's another one. Being a millionaire is a goal that a lot of times people in small business classes have. I can't remember the calculation I did exactly, but in ballpark terms, if you save $20,000 a year for 20 years and you invest it at 10% interest, you'll be a millionaire. 20 years, $20,000 a year. That's a lot to save. That's a big chunk of your money, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible to become a millionaire if you just plan ahead for what it's going to cost. One that I like to put on here as well is owning a Learjet. Like, that's a dream of mine. I've like, with all the places I fly, it sucks always having to fly commercial. It would be so nice if I could go into my own private plane and fly directly to like a small airport in Europe, rather than having to do all the exchanges and security checks and all that stuff. It would be so awesome. It's expensive. I actually look, for the purposes of this class, plus just for my own knowledge, I looked into how much it costs to own a jet. If you want to own one outright, it's about $60 or $70 million. But you can rent a jet. Anybody heard of NetJets? There's a company called NetJets that is basically timeshares on jets. So for 1/16 of a jet, you share the jet with 16 other people over the course of the year. I think it's a $500,000 down payment and about $100,000 to $200,000 a year to maintain your 1/16. So that's not something that you're going to be able to do on a $100,000 salary. You're going to need to start your own business. You're going to need to do something to bring in a hell of a lot more money if you ever want to own a jet. So just some goals to think about. I encourage you guys to dream big and really do your homework on what the numbers are that you're going to need to accomplish those goals. It's all doable. You just need to know what your goal is and what the steps are to get there. So that was one of the big reasons why I wanted you to project long-term budget as well, is to start planning for the money you're going to need. A few comments about networking and kind of using my contact network or using other people's contact networks to find contacts for a new job after you graduate, or find contacts in the dream industry that you want to get into. So identifying a general network building target and prospecting for networking leads, these first two, these kind of go back to that rule of 10 thing. You need to make sure that you've got enough targets that at least one of them works out. When you're sifting through my contacts or anybody else's contacts, when you're building and maintaining a contact relationship, it's important. It's important, A, that you come across with a competent professional image, and B, it's important to remember what's in it for them. A lot of times my contacts like helping people just because they're bored. I mean, not that they're bored, but they work every day on closing this deal or closing that deal, and then making sure that this shipment gets done or that shipment gets done. And nobody ever thanks them for it. Nobody ever says, wow, that's cool what you do. And they just like being appreciated. So sometimes it's as simple as being appreciative and saying thank you. Sometimes they might be looking to hire somebody, and maybe you're not the right person, but you can refer them to somebody who can. It's always important to keep in mind, why is this person helping me? And make sure that they're getting something out of it too. And then building and maintaining a mentor relationship. I totally am blanking on what I wanted to say about that bullet point. I mean, the target, the goal that I think a lot of you should be shooting for in your networking is to find a handful of people who really want to help you and are have been there and done that before. And in order to do that, you need to develop a certain rapport with the mentor. So, without getting into details that I can't remember right now of exactly how to go about that, the point is that your goal in a lot of networking for career goals and for long-term search goals is to find a handful of mentors who really care about seeing you succeed. And then finally, network building and my rule of 10 that I talked about before. There's about 7 billion people on the planet. There's always somebody out there who wants what you have to offer, whether it's networking-wise or whether it's looking for a mentor, whether you're selling something, whether you're trying to build your new business. There's always somebody out there that needs what you've got. The question is just, can you weather the process of finding them? So, like I said with 10, recognize and accept that you probably have to touch, is what I call it, 10 prospects for every lead, and touch 10 leads for each real opportunity. So, prospects are like going through my contacts and just making a list of 10 of them. You don't know which ones of them I know well and which ones of them I don't know well, which ones of them are too busy to help you, which ones of them actually have time and are available. So you just make a list of 10. And fire that off to me. That's 10 touches of a prospect. Just to find one that's willing to talk to you. And for each one that's willing to talk to you, they might be helpful or give you some good advice, but a new job opportunity or a true mentor relationship that's going to be with you for your whole life, you may have to have 10 people you talk to. So that's 100 lists of names in order to come up with one really good opportunity. So remember that you're going to need volume. You really want to leverage social media and association member lists, things like that. There's really no reason why you ever have to ask how many employees does your company have, or how much revenue does your company make, or what products are you focused on. You can find all that out by looking at the company's website and by looking at Chamber of Commerce information for the business in question. There's a lot that you can find out about contacts before you ever talk to them. In our wonderful world of Google and social media, you can find a lot of information about people before you ever pick up the phone or before you ever send an email. And I encourage you to take advantage of all the information you can, so that the questions you do ask, the conversations you do have, are as value added as possible. Two last things: document everything. I have a contact that I have guest lecture to my classes every year or two. He's one of the principals of the largest PR firm in Indiana. They do a lot of work for the Indianapolis Colts and other stuff like that. And I originally got to know him because one of my clients for my company Market Driver was looking for new contacts, new customers in the advertising and PR business. And I picked up a list of all the PR companies in Indianapolis, and I started calling all of them. So when I called Eric, I talked to the person at the front desk. Maybe her name was Jane. I can't remember. But write that down. Write down what the name was of the person at the front desk so you can say hi to them the next time you call. So that you can say on your voicemail that you leave for somebody, hey, I asked Jane how to find the right contact. She sent me to you. Hopefully this is the right place. Just being able to refer to the name of the attendant, you'd be surprised how many times that actually helps kind of warm up the relationship. When I went into his voicemail said, hey, this is Eric Johnson. I'm on vacation for the next 2 weeks. I'll be back September 25th. Leave me a message. I'll get back to you when I get back. So I made a note. Eric's going to be back on the 25th. He's on vacation. I mean, this guy doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. I just left a voicemail saying, hey, I have this company that looks for new contacts for people, and I'm looking for contacts in the PR business, and I found your name. So I made a note to myself, and I waited 2 weeks until he was done with vacation, and I called back, and I said, hey, how was your vacation? And just that little conversation starter was enough for us to start talking, and he became a really good contact and friend of mine, and he guest lectures to my classes every couple of years now. So make sure to write down everything. Like the kind of food people like, the name of the attendant at the front desk. No piece of information is too small. It's all valuable. It all gives you a better opportunity to build a relationship. And then finally, don't take rejection personally. It's just part of the process. Anytime you want to achieve something in life, you're going to fail several times before you succeed at it. You're going to need to try 10 times in order to succeed once. So whether it's networking or selling or starting a new business, getting the right customer base for your business once you have started the business, finding the right suppliers, finding the right mentors. Sometimes people are going to say no. Sometimes you're going to try things and they're not going to work out. Don't be discouraged. I mean, be discouraged for a day, go cry on your sofa for an hour or two, and then pick yourself back up and keep going. Don't take it personally. It's just part of the process. There's going to be rejection and failure, probably more times than there is going to be success. But that doesn't mean that you're not doing the right thing. So that was my lecture here. I got one more thing to say. We're not going to do it this week, but next week we need to split up into project groups. So I asked you guys all about the companies that you might want to do a project for. I wrote those all down on the board. I made notes of them. I've got a list of all of them. Next week, we're going to put them all up on the board, and everybody's going to choose which project you want to work on. So think about what you want to do for your project, because we're going to assign those teams next week. Any questions? Okay, I'll see you guys all next week. Have a good weekend.